All right, all right, all right. Well, welcome to our Solar 101 conversation. I am Larissa Johnson from Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection. I'm the Residential Energy Program Manager, which means I talk about all things energy, from conservation to efficiency to electrification to renewable energy, which is why we're here today with my sunflower hat on, my little solar hat. But we do know that it's a little wacky weather today, so our solar panels are not probably getting as much sun as they normally do on a beautiful July afternoon. But we want to make sure that we are answering all of your questions when it comes to solar. And so we have Sukrit from Solar United Neighbors, who's going to give us a presentation about the ins and out of solar. Before we do that, though, I want to make sure that everyone is aware of two major things. The first thing is that we have a website here in Montgomery County. It's called Montgomery Energy Connection. This is your one-stop shop for all things energy here. So if you have questions after this is over, you're going to go right here in our website to helpful resources, switch to renewable energy, and then say join the Solar Switch program. This is going to have all the information about the program that Sukrit is talking about. You'll see right here, there's another recording. No, there's not. That's not where it is, Larissa. It's right here. This was the recording from our Solar 101 webinar with the city of Rockville. That may be why we don't have a lot of Rockville participants today. This is the link to sign up for today's meeting. And then we also have an amazing opportunity for you all, and that is on next Thursday, August 6th from 6 to 8:30 p.m. We will be meeting at Mi Rancho in Silver Spring. So I forget who said they live in Silver Spring, but this is a perfect one for you. You could just walk over, bike over, or join us at this event. We will be meeting with other folks that will be installers there who do installations about solar for solar panels. There will also be myself and Sukrit there in person, and there will be other homeowners who have gone solar. And so this is when I get the opportunity to tell you that not only am I the residential energy program manager, but I'm also a solar panel owner as well. So I have a solar installation on my roof, and I went through the Switch Together program as well. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass it on over to Sukrit. Please feel free to put your comments or questions in the chat. I know he will keep an eye on it, but even if we don't answer it right away, we will get to them at the end. But please do, because there's only a few of us here, feel free to interject, and I'll take a look at the chat too. So if he pauses, when he pauses to breathe, I can also let you know, let him know that there's a question in the chat. So cameras on, cameras off, whatever you feel like doing. This sun is like the real sun. It's very hot and I'm schwitzing under here. So I may be turning off my camera as well. But Sukrit, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Larissa, and good evening, everyone. Just give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen real quick. Da, da, da. Okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? Or is it being weird, I guess? Give me 1 second.
I had it for a second. We saw it.
That's okay. Uh, Second time's the charm. Da, da, da. Okay. Okay, how about now? Is this better?
Yes, but you have to put use slideshow, remember? So
Yeah.
that's your next slide.
Let me try this one. How
There
about
you
now?
go.
Perfect. It's one of those days, but I made it. All right. Before I get into the presentation itself, thanks again, Larissa and team for the invite. And just a quick introduction. My name's Sokrit Mishra. I am the Switch Together program lead at Solar United Neighbors. I will be dropping a lot of vendor names, but I will also give you some context on everything in the program. And I manage our co-ops, our solar co-ops and Switch Together in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I've been in the solar industry for almost 6.5 years now. Time flies. And my goal this evening is to give you a brief preview on the program itself, on Switch Together, how you can sign up, the benefits. But beyond that, also give you some basic info on solar tech, some financing, and see if you have any questions. And Again, we also have a help desk, so you're not missing anything. If I cannot get to your questions this evening, or if I do not have a good answer, I can check in with the team and get back to you later this week. And with that, I will get into this presentation. And there will be three sections to this. So the first one will be solar tech, and then I'll transition to financing, then switch together. I will be taking many breaks in between. So if you have any questions or any feedback, I would be happy to pause and take on these questions when I can. And with that, I'll get into this. So, in a nutshell, what is Sun or Solar United Neighbors? We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit based in DC. That's also where I'm calling in from our head office in DuPont Circle. And we also work in 12 other states, including Maryland. Maryland's actually our second oldest state program after DC. And yeah, so we work in 12 other states as well as DC and Puerto Rico. We have been around for almost 2 decades now, and our mission's simple: helping people go solar in our co-ops and switch together, or outside of it, doesn't matter. Beyond helping people go solar, educating them on webinars and forums like this, meeting them in person at social events like the happy hour next week. And the third part of the mission is fighting for people's energy rights. There's always going to be some resistance and pushback from other stakeholders when it comes to clean energy or solar. And we've seen that. There has been some pushback against net metering, some other initiatives, and that's what we're trying to preserve, which is the benefits of residential solar, and trying to make it as easy as possible for folks, not just in Maryland, but across the country. In terms of our program impact, as I mentioned earlier, we have been around for 2 decades or close to 2 decades. We started the Maryland program back in 2014. In that time, over the last 12 years or so, we have had more than or close to 2,200 people go solar with us in our co-ops. That's almost 20 megawatts of installed or deployed capacity on rooftops. And I would go over all the other numbers, but we have made quite a considerable impact in the DMV area. In terms of how Sun got started, that over there is Anya, who is our founder and the executive director. She founded this company back in 2007. Um, she was interested in trying to get more folks into the residential solar industry, but also give them an option beyond just paying their utility bills every month. Back then, it was seen as a boutique project, as a novelty, because with with um, prior to Pepco, even then the utility bills were pricey, and during her research, she realized really quick that it can be pricey, it can be tedious, and it can be overwhelming. Solar wasn't simple back then. And so she lives out in Mount Pleasant, in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood. She started her very first co-op with the idea that she's going to bulk people up in this group, help them pick an installer, and walk them through the whole process. And it was just an experiment. It was pretty effective. They got a discounted group rate with those 50 neighbors. And then she replicated that model elsewhere in DC, then Maryland, then Virginia, then Florida. And as I said, now we are a national nonprofit. We have members across all 50 states, and we have run close to 500 solar co-ops in that time. We have expanded our offerings beyond solar PV systems to battery backups, level 2 EV chargers, and more recently, heat pumps, um, which I won't go into today because Montgomery County has their own heat pump program. So I'll be very mindful of my boundaries. But in that time, across the country, we have done more than 112 megawatts of rooftop solar, which is close to 13,000 or just north of 13,000 homes that have gone solar with us. And like I said, there will be three parts: solar tech, and then solar economics, and then switch together. And my goal is to keep it as simple as possible. I will give you a surface level overview of each of these topics. I'll do my best. I'll try not to go off on any tangents and try to keep it as simple as possible. However, If you have more in-depth questions about anything you're looking to pursue, send it over to our help desk. We offer pro bono consulting, and we will answer your questions at no charge to you. So moving on, solar panels in a nutshell, they're also referred to as solar photovoltaic cells or PV cells. And to state the obvious, they are converting solar energy or sunshine into a usable form of electricity for your household. And you hardly ever see just one panel on a rooftop. And it's usually a collection of them, which installers refer to as a solar array. So when you do engage an installer on a potential consultation, or when you receive a proposal from an installer, both in our program and outside of it in the open market, they will refer to your system as a solar array. And this is an example of one such array. And there are two forms usually. There's one you see on rooftops. The other one you see is our ground-mounted solar arrays, like this one over here. And it just depends on your preferences, your budget, among other factors. This on the left, I won't go into the nitty-gritty of what the panel is made up of. The reason I share this picture in my presentations is to show you how complicated the design can be. There are a lot of moving parts. It is state of the art, but from an installer's perspective, this is what each of these individual panels look like. And contrary to how fragile they look over here, they're very robust. They can sustain a lot of wind and a lot of damage, especially during hailstorms. And even in our states like Florida or even Puerto Rico, where we we have to consider the hurricane season. Florida is actually our second or third biggest state in terms of how many panels we sell over there. So they're very robust. They're built to last for 25 to 30 years. I'll get into more on that later. But yeah, this is what it looks like. The next component is the racking system. These panels do not just go on your roof directly. They're not just embedded on top. They require some sort of a medium, such as a racking system here, which is installed on the roof, and then the panels themselves are installed on top of them. And this is done to preserve the physical integrity of both your panels and the roof itself. Your roofs already have their own outstanding warranties, which we like to preserve in our program. And so this is an example of one such racking system. And when it comes to roofs, most roofs are a good fit for solar systems, whether it's asphalt shingles, standing seam metal roofs, clay tiles. The only exception would be slate roofs. They're a bit more fragile. Even with the evolving technology, installers consider them on a case-by-case basis. A lot of installers turn them down. And the installers that do take on them, they offer installs at a slightly higher surcharge for each of these panels. But again, slate roofs are the only exception. Most roofs are a good fit for solar. This is another such example. And it just depends on what your roof looks like, whether it's got a slope, whether it's a flat roof. They will design and customize a system so as to optimize these panels and the sunshine or the sunlight they're receiving during the peak sun hours from 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. And again, no two roofs are alike. Each of these systems, it just depends on your roof configuration, your own preferences, and I'll get more into that later. The alternative to rooftop mounted systems are ground mounted systems. They're very rare in our program only because they are pricier, because of the amount of trenching and permitting and other factors involved. They do entail a higher surcharge. However, for folks who have that budget, and for folks who have a roof which is more shaded, or the roof might be older, that's where ground mounted systems are a viable alternative. Another common question I get is, when should you install a system? If you have an older roof, is a solar system a good fit for you? And usually our answer is, if you know that you have to replace your roof within the next 5 or 10 years, we highly recommend getting that roof replaced prior or during the time you're going solar. I say this because Once you install the system, if your roof does sustain any damage, it means deinstalling the panels, fixing the roof, and then reinstalling the system at added charge. That's not something the warranty covers. So when you do go through the application process, just let the installer know how old your roof is, or you can also ask them to take a look. They have their own in-house roofers, and they'll let you know if it makes sense to replace the roof. But in either case, if you feel like your roof's not a good fit, either because of the roof condition or from the installer, that's where ground-mounted systems are an alternative or a consideration. The next component are the inverters themselves. They're usually two forms. There is a central inverter and then microinverters. The purpose of the inverters are they convert the electricity from DC or direct current to AC or alternating current. Um, when your panels receive that sunlight, they're usually producing it in DC or direct current. That is not consumable in your household appliances. And so that's where that energy then goes through the inverter, and that's where the conversion is done. And it's converted into AC so that it can be used by your household appliances. And again, two forms. The more basic one is a central inverter. There's usually just one for the whole system setup, or just one central inverter for a solar array. And the benefits of a central inverter are they're cheaper, they're more simple in design, easy to install. On the flip side, or the consideration is, if any of these panels go down, as any other technology can go, it will compromise the production of your system. Or during the peak sun hours, if one of your panels is not receiving as much sunlight due to tree shade or any other factors, it will affect the production across the whole system. And so that's one of the limitations of central inverters. We use microinverters in our programs. They're more state of the art. They're more common in the market. Microinverters are embedded under each of these panels. So it's not just one central microinverter. Rather, each of them are embedded behind each of your panels on the rooftop. What that means is, if any of your panels go down for whatever reason, it will not compromise the production of your whole system during the peak sun hours. And whether it's electronic defects, sun, excessive shade on one of the panels, or any other factor. If the system detects this, it will optimize it to make up for the shortfall in one of the panels. You can also track your production in lifetime on your phone app. And if you detect any errors or any shortfall, just reach out to your installer. They'll come over, honor their warranty, and fix it under the existing warranties that your system has. And in our programs itself, in the last couple of years, we have been offering the IQ8M microinverter, which is more of the state of the art, and it's offered by both the installers in our program. When we did the auction earlier this spring, we selected, I think it was SEW and Edge Energy to cover Montgomery County among other installers, and they both offer the same brand when it comes to the microinverter. Moving on, the next component is the electric panel. Once the microinverters have done their job and converted the electricity into AC, it then goes through your electric panel, which is basically the nervous system of your whole setup. The electric panel gauges the most pressing needs in your household, which appliances need the most energy in lifetime, and it distributes that electricity in the most efficient way across your household. And any surplus production does not go to waste. It actually goes back to the grid, but I'll get into that. That's what we refer to as net metering. I will get to it in the next couple of slides. The only thing you would have to know about electric panels is most panels are a good fit, or most electric panels are up to code and up to date when it comes to solar systems. There are a few exceptions. The installer will look at your electric panel when they do a virtual review of your roof. And when they do an in-site visit, they will ask you about your electric panel, how old it is, how much load it can sustain. And if it's something that's really archaic or needs replacing, they will do this as a part of the solar installation. So usually most electric panels do not require replacing. There are some exceptions. You do not have to do anything. This is something the installer will walk you through during the consultation process. Moving on, in terms of important terminologies, two key terms you should know. The first one is kilowatts. This is a fixed system size. This is what your system is measured in. When you have that consultation with your installer rep, when you receive that proposal, they will refer to your solar array or system size in kilowatts. This is a fixed number, and this depends on how many panels you have and the size of each of these panels. As an example, the array you see over here, it's made up of 12 panels, 12 individual panels. Each of them is 350 watts. If you multiply that by 12, you're getting around 4,200 watts or 4.2 kilowatts. That's your system size. That's what you will be charged for if you do opt to go solar. Kilowatt hours is what your system produces. This is that something that varies across the day, and it depends on a variety of factors, which I'll refer to in the next few slides. And the most common question we get from folks is, them and their neighbor have the same system size on their rooftop. However, their neighbor appears to be paying less on their utility bills, or the system is producing more than them. And that will depend on the landscape of the house, how much shading it's receiving, the slope of the roof, the angle or the orientation of the panels towards the sun, the brand of the panels themselves. So it like I said, I mean, it depends on a variety of factors, and that's where you're going to see the variance in the production and kilowatt hours. On average, in the last few years in Maryland, we have seen an average size of 6 to 7 kilowatts. And again, your installer rep will size your system based on your utility bills, based on the budget you have, the percent of your utility bills you're looking to offset. Some folks have the budget, they want to cover 100% of their utility bills. That's fine. Some folks are a bit more cautious. They want to be a bit more, they would like to play it safe. Some of them want to see if this technology actually works. So they start with a smaller system. If they're satisfied with the production, they reach out again. They expand the system in the next year or so. So it just depends. The system size depends on a variety of factors. But on average, since we started Switch together 3 years ago, the average system size in Maryland has been 6 to 7 kilowatts. And so once you combine all of that together, the panels, the inverter, the electric panel, and all the other finer parts, this is what it looks like. And moving on to the next slide, made up of 5 parts. The first part, to state the obvious, the panels are there facing the sun. They're absorbing that energy and converting it in lifetime into DC or direct current. It then goes through the inverter or the microinverters. That's where the conversion happens from DC to AC. It then goes through your electric panel, which gauges how much electricity you need, and it is distributed across a household. And then that's where the last part comes in, and this whole puzzle. Like I said before, solar panels produce energy in lifetime. So there will be instances where you'll not be home, the panels are doing their job, and you may not require that energy in lifetime, but that surplus or extra energy that the system produces, it does not go to waste. So once your appliances are done consuming the electricity they need, any extra energy actually goes back to the grid, which is the fifth step over here, and you're actually compensated for that based on the principles of net metering. In Maryland, at least for this year until June 1st next year, you will be compensated on a one-to-one credit. So for every surplus credit that your system produces, goes back to the grid, it is accounted for on your utility bills, and you will be compensated accordingly on a one-to-one ratio. And just to keep it simple, this is what it might look like on your utility bill. Electricity used from the grid, 300 kilowatt hours or units. Let's say during that time, your system produced 200 extra units of surplus production that's been sent to the grid. And so you're not actually paying for 300 kilowatt hours. You pay for the difference, which is 100 units or 100 kilowatt hours. This is, of course, this is very simple, but this is how it actually functions. After sunset, when your panels are not as productive, that's where you're using electricity from the grid. Any of that surplus production in the peak sun hours that you exported, that is removed from this, and this is what you're actually paying for. And so when you're sizing that system, one of the questions your installer will ask you is, what are your goals? Are you looking to cover 100% of your utility bills? And if so, what's your budget? And then based on that, they work backwards and they size the system accordingly. And the one thing I'll flag again is in Maryland, like a few other states, you're compensated on a one-to-one basis, but that will be changing starting next summer. We're not sharing this to spook you or incentivize you to go solar, but instead of a one-to-one basis, you may be compensated for any excess production, perhaps 80% of it starting next summer. We're still figuring out the specifics, but if you want to be grandfathered into the existing rules, this is a good time to go solar. And again, net metering can be complicated. We get questions all the time. So if you would like to learn more, we do have a net metering guide. I'm happy to send it over to you after the presentation. Just reach out to our help desk and we are happy to send you any of these documents or resources later this week. Moving on in terms of what makes a good roof for solar. Again, this is very simplified, but usually there are three factors. The first one is roof orientation. Because we're in the northern hemisphere, we're leaning into the sun. Installers usually look for south-facing roofs. They're the most optimal for peak solar production. The alternatives are east and west-facing roofs. With the technology that we have in place and the progress we have made in the solar market, east and west-facing roofs are almost as close as south-facing roofs. They're very efficient and productive. The only exception would be north-facing roofs, depending on the slope of your roof and the orientation. Um, Installers may be able to make it work, but sometimes there are exceptions. So this is what they look for in orientations. When it comes to shading and the space on your roof, they're interconnected. In terms of a magic number, installers look for at least 200 square feet of open roof space when it comes to solar panels. And the same goes for shading. If you do receive any shading on your roof during the peak sun hours, as long as you still have at least 200 square feet of open roof space that's not affected by the shade for 6 to 8 hours a day, it makes sense to go solar. It is a good investment in the long term. If you feel like you're in the gray area and you need a second opinion, we do roof reviews on our help desk. Feel free to send us your reach out, ask for a roof review, and we will use this criteria and our own tools and let you know if your roof is a good fit. And sometimes installers can make an exception if you're in that gray area. It'll just mean they'll let you know how long your payback period is. In Maryland, with the SRIC market and some other factors, the payback period on solar systems on average is anywhere from, I would say, 7 to 9 years from what we have seen to break even. These panels sit over there and they have a lifespan of 25 to 30 years. When I say 25 to 30 years, by year 25, they produce around 80% of their peak solar production. So you can still keep it up there. It just means after year 25, the warranties are null and void. And I'll get into that later. But once you've paid back this system after year 8 or year 9, you're actually making money out of this system. So it is a long-term investment, but it is very, very competitive in Maryland. With the SRIC market, with net metering and some other incentives, it it makes for a very compelling option to go solar. We do work in some other states in the Midwest and elsewhere, and I can tell you, it's a bit more aggressive. They do not have SRECs. They do not have the same benefits around net metering. We are very fortunate in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, where we have a few more benefits when it comes to solar. The other consideration or adder would be battery backups. So, for complete transparency, on average, we have 100 to 150 folks going solar in Maryland every year in our program. I would say a handful of them opt for battery backups. And this will be offered to you in our program. We are offering the Tesla Powerwall 3 through both Edge and SCW. And depending on the battery size that you prefer, it can be anywhere from 15 to 20,000 extra on top of the solar system. I usually say that a battery is a nice to have. It's not an absolute necessity. If you live in a neighborhood or on a block where you suffer from frequent utility outages or your grid is not as stable or reliable, it's a nice to have. Other than that, batteries are an adder. They're not an obligation in our program. And we do have a battery guide. This is the link to it. You're not missing it if you're not able to take a snapshot over here. I can send it to you after the presentation as well. And again, there are a few other options. I know Franklin Energy has their own battery backup options. There are other brands, and if you really like to take a deep dive into it and you want pricing specifics, I can share them with you after this presentation. All right, before I wrap up the first segment, in terms of the most frequently asked questions, the first one is warranties. The panels, like I said before, the product warranty is 25 years. Some installers are now offering a warranty of 30 years on the solar panels themselves. For the workmanship, it's anywhere from 3 to 10 years. So if you do run into any difficulties around the wiring, around the panels, or any of the penetrations that are made on the roof, the installer will cover it as a part of the warranty. Beyond that, the inverters themselves, the central inverter usually has a warranty of 10 to 15 years. The microinverters have an average warranty of 25 years, on par with the panels themselves. The more you read up on microinverters, you'll see why they're more state of the art and more frequently offered in both our program and in the open market. Even though they're pricier, they're worth that added surcharge. In terms of homeowners insurance, this is a common myth we receive that going solar will hike up your homeowners insurance. Not true. There are actually green retailers now and green homeowners insurance providers. So in the odd case where you are told that your insurance will be going up, reach out to our listserv or reach out to us. We can see if we can find an insurance provider for you that can provide as competitive or lower insurance rates once you do go solar. In terms of maintenance, that's the other big benefit. Once you have signed the contract, once the permitting is done, once the installation is done, the panels just sit there and they will do their work without making any noise for the next 25 years with minimal maintenance. They, even with pollen or any dust or what have you, it might require some routine cleaning, which you can loop in the installer for. But in terms of the maintenance, they require minimal intervention. And in the event that your system does run into any difficulties, the warranties do cover the bulk of it. So that's one of the big benefits of solar systems. In terms of how long they last, like I said, they perform at their peak at 80 to 85% of their peak production in year one till year 25 of their lifetime. After that, the degradation is a bit more higher. And you can still have it up there. We do have folks from 2010 in our programs who have had the system for almost 15 or 16 years, and they're happy. But the system is still doing its job, and it's still preserved or covered by the existing or the initial warranties. And once it's done, you can reach out to us or the installer on what the deinstallation costs are and see if they can come back and do another installation. Um, Panels have evolved a ton. They're far more productive, far more efficient. When I joined the industry 6 years ago, a premium panel was considered to be 300 watts. Now it's more like 420 or 450 watts. So the technology continues to evolve and grow very aggressively. Moving on, will an HOA allow solar on your home? The Maryland Property Code mandates and stipulates that HOAs cannot stop you from going solar. They cannot restrict you from going solar. Furthermore, they cannot put in any restrictions or provisions that reduces the production or the efficiency of your panels. Either way, if you get any pushback from your HOA, reach out to our help desk and we can work with your installer and ensure that we can get the installation done. But in brief, the retail and property code stipulates that they cannot stop you from going solar. If you live in a historic district, what we recommend is be as transparent with the district as possible. Let them know of your intention to go solar. Let your installer know you live in a historic district. They will design and customize your system in such a way that the panels are not facing a public street facing slope of your roof, and they will adhere or honor any of the regulations and still make this work. We get this question all the time in Maryland. It's not a big deal. Just be transparent with the local authorities and with your installer, and they will take it into account when they're designing their system. There are way more questions we receive on our help desk. We have an extended FAQ on our website. I obviously do not have the time to get into that today, but I would be more than happy to share that guide after this presentation. Moving on to solar economics, but before I get into this, like Larissa said, I can take a breather and I would be happy to pause for any questions. And Larissa, if you don't have any, that's also okay.
Oh, and of course, hydrate yourself. It's hot out here. No, but I have been putting in the chat a lot of the resources that you've been talking about. So I put in there information about the solar help desk and net metering and the battery storage guide. So it should be all in there, but no questions yet.
That is perfect. Thank you. And the other question we get in relation to the help desk is, do I have to be a co-op member or do I have to have signed up for Switch Together to get a free consultation? Not at all. Like I said, our help desk is open to folks across all 50 states. We only have field staff in 12 states, and we do not charge anyone for any of the questions. The only exception would be any commercial clients who are looking to go solar and they need an in-depth LiDAR or something more sophisticated in terms of a roof assessment. Beyond that, not so much. We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, as I mentioned. 90 to 95% of our revenue and grants come from both from local sources and the federal sources, either through restricted and unrestricted grants. This is not the program that keeps the lights on. This is only something we offer as a service, and we will not charge you for any of those questions. All right, moving on to solar economics. As I said, we have made a lot of strides when it comes to rooftop solar and single family homes. Back in 2010, it was far more pricey. We have dropped, our costs have come down by almost 73% in 2026. It used to be considered a luxury good, not anymore. And with data centers coming online, with other considerations, with utility escalator rates not stopping, we get more and more questions about how to go solar. And like I said, the return on investment is very competitive. I'm not going to overpromise and say you're going to get your payback within one period. It takes time. It is a long-term investment of 7 to 8 years. Once you've done that payback or we have paid back the system still sits there and produces electricity for your household for the next 18 years after the payback. So again, the return on investment is very, very competitive. Just to give you a sense of the business model from the installer's perspective and why it can be pricey, 50 to 60% of the costs of being in business or operating for an installer are what we call soft costs. And those soft costs include marketing, advertising, customer acquisition, permitting, and all that other good stuff. By running our own co-ops, we're actually aggregating those folks or those leads and participants for the installers. We have already eliminated all those soft costs for them. And so it incentivizes them to give you a competitive below the market rate in our program, which is usually 15 to 25% lower than the open market. And you don't have to believe me. What I highly recommend to folks is always reach out to at least a couple or at least three installers outside our program, get their proposal, compare it to ours, and then make your decision. I do apologize for the background noise. I'm still working from the office, and this is when the cleaning crew comes in. So I will try to audiate myself a bit
We
more.
can't hear anything.
Perfecto. That's me being paranoid then. Excellent. Moving on, in terms of the pricing chart, these are just example numbers on what you can see. And I am comparing a smaller system of around 3.3 kilowatts versus a larger system that usually covers 100% of your utility bills, which is closer to 7 kilowatts here on the right-hand side. And this is what I'm breaking it down to. So the market rate in Maryland is around $2.66 a watt. However, we have seen prices to be higher than that even. Installers ask us not to disclose the prices in our program because they're only for a specific time, and this is not something they want to divulge. What I can say is it's usually 15% below that number over there. And like I said, you're not priced by the panels, you're priced by the watts. So you multiply this by the system size or 3.35 kilowatts or 3,350 watts. The upfront price tag is around $9,000. And then after that, that's where the deductions kick in. The first one is SRECs or solar renewable energy credits. I will try to keep it light, but this is important. This is a production incentive. It's a virtual production incentive where every time your system produces 1,000 watt hours of clean energy or 1,000 kilowatt hours of clean energy, you are rewarded with one SREC. You can sell this in the open market to an SREC broker. The two big brokers are Sol Systems and SREC Trade across the East Coast. And in Maryland, right now in the open market, one SREC is trading for around $40. For a system size of around 3.35 kilowatts, that's around 4 SRECs that you make a year, 4 to 5 SRECs, and that's your revenue of around $200. So again, it's not a big chunk, but over a system's lifetime, you're making a lot of money out of SRECs. SRECs can be confusing, they can be convoluted. I dropped a lot of brand names. Send your questions my way. I will also add that our members, anyone that goes solar with us, get a 50% discount on their broker fees with Sol Systems. I can share more on that after the presentation, but do not sleep on this. I mean, SRECs are, this is not something that's available in every state. We do solar programs in states like Indiana and Ohio. They do not have SRECs. The best market is in DC, where SRECs are for $400 in the open market. I mentioned that because some of you folks might be on the Pepco feeder line. I don't want to promise anything, but you may qualify for DC SREC rates. Big difference between $40 for an SREC or $400, just a consideration. So we do have an SREC guide. I'm happy to share this after this 101. And then the next saving is the electricity savings. So the opportunity cost of not going solar is what you pay in your utility bills. And using our own calculator, you can save up to $1,000 on your utility bills if you do go solar in the first year. With the escalator rates every year over the system's lifetime of 25 years, we forecast that you save around $30,000 by going solar versus not going solar. And so by the end of the system's lifetime, you're actually making money out of this. So that's actually your revenue stream after 25 to 30 years. Again, these are just example numbers. This is the median. These numbers are subject to your system size, your roof, the escalator rates, how much shade your roof is receiving, and some other factors. So I'm going to
You have
pause.
a question.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, let's
Can
hear
you
it.
talk about the life cycle of the inverter? I understand they have a shorter lifespan than the panels themselves. How does that work?
Right. So when it comes to the central inverter, they have a life cycle of 10 to 15 years, and that's how long the warranty also goes for. They're more simple in scope. Once it hits its lifetime or the end of its lifetime, you can reach out to the original installer and they will install another central inverter. Sometimes it's covered as a part of the warranties, depending on the installer and brand you're working with. The most common brand for central inverters is Solar Edge. Sometimes they may charge you another fee to replace that central inverter. That's another reason why microinverters are more popular. Microinverters usually last from 15 to 25 years. They have a warranty for 25 years. So if you run into any challenges, if they need replacing, your warranty will cover it. And the most common microinverter right now are the N-phase microinverters. They vary anywhere from IQ7 to IQ8M, IQ8M plus. I will not go into the details, but they're the most state of the art. They usually do not, they require minimal maintenance. Um, Speaking anecdotally, we have done more than 2,000 installations in our Switch Together program since 2023. We have a help desk. We, I can count on one hand on how many of these maintenance cases we receive every solar season, and almost all of them are covered by the installer under the existing warranties. We do not receive any concerns or complaints or negative complaints around inverters or the panels. If we did, we would not be able to run our program at this pace because as more people go online, there are more warranties that are being honored. But in terms of the lifetime, 15 to 25 years, they are covered by the existing warranties once you sign that contract with the installer. Um, Hopefully that helps. If you have any other specific questions about brands, send it my way. I can send it to our tech team and we will have a better answer for you. Larissa, any other questions or good to continue?
You're good to continue. Just one person left. They said that they sent an email already to Solar United Neighbors Help Desk because they
Perfect.
have a question with potential shade issues. But
That is perfect. I'm assuming they would like a roof review. I will be happy to look at it tomorrow through one of our associates and get back to them. All right, moving on. Now I understand even after all the progress, you might not be a good fit for our program or you might be looking for competitive financing options. There are loans that are being offered in the region. One of them is through the Montgomery County Green Bank and the Climate First Bank, which is offered in this program. And we have been working with them or partnering with them since 2021 when we used to run the co-ops. Very, very reliable, very competitive rates. And we would be happy to connect you to them so you can get the specifics. Beyond owning a system, we realize sometimes, it's not in your budget. That's where third-party options like PPAs and leases come in. PPAs are also, just want to see if it's covered here. I'll actually get into the PPAs after in the next slide. But leases are also where you can lease a system. It's owned by a third party. You're not paying for it upright. You may be paying a monthly fee, which is lower than the market rate. The benefits are any of the maintenance, it will be covered by the installer or the third party developer. You're still getting the benefits of solar energy that's produced by the system. The only consideration would be the length of the lease. If you're moving homes, is there anything in the lease that says or lets you break the lease? Or how easy is it to transfer the lease to another homeowner? Um, Anything around escalator rates, that's something you have to keep in mind. So again, if you need a second opinion on any offers or proposals you have received around leases, send it our way. We will look for any red flags and let you know if it's a good deal. And then moving on, one thing I will really like to flag are grants. The big one is MSAP or Maryland Solar Access Program. This is a big one because their income eligibility criteria is very, very generous. This is administered by the MEA or Maryland Energy Administration. And Larissa, I'm sharing this because this is perfect timing. Um, we had been receiving a lot of questions in the last few months about, is the grant open? And it wasn't because the funds were exhausted, but the next cycle will open tomorrow for both the applicants and vendors. And the, the grant is capped at 10 kilowatts or $7,500 for each household. But I showed you those pricing numbers in the previous slides. It's a hefty number if you're qualified for this. It covers anywhere from 30 to 50%, if not more, of your system costs upfront, which significantly reduces your payback period from say 8 years to 3 or 4 years. So the specifics of this are on the MEA's website. The only thing you would have to do is, if you're eligible, feel free to apply for or explore solar options on your own or through Switch Together. Both Edge Energy and SCW have confirmed to me that they will be applying for the MSAP grant again, and they have always won this grant as a vendor. So if you go solar through them, you will qualify for that grant. So if you'd like more specifics on this grant, send an email my way. I will connect you to the MEA's team and share any specifics around the grant as well. But I don't think we have anything as competitive as this in other states. It's a very, very good incentive. And you do not want to take this for granted because it was on offer last year and this year. Nothing's permanent. So just putting it out there. The last one I'll share before moving on to Switch Together is PPAs or power purchase agreements. Similar to the leases, it's where a third-party installer or developer installs a system on your roof or a third-party site. You're subscribing to it. You're getting the benefits of clean energy or the energy it generates. And you're not paying for the system itself. You're paying for the power it generates at below the utility rate charged to you by BG&E or Pepco or any other utility provider. So the savings are not quite as high as owning a system. You save more like 20 or 30% on your utility bills versus owning a system. But the benefits are you do not have to install the system. You're not paying an upfront fee. You're paying a monthly fee or something more nominal than owning a system. The potential considerations or drawbacks, just like a lease, are have a read through the fine print. What's the escalator fee? Because if the utility rate goes up, naturally the PPA rate might go up. And I keep warning this to folks because they reach out to our help desk when it's too late. They're not our members. They don't go solar with us, but they need some assistance where they complain that the offer looked really good up front for the first year. And the moment the first year passed, their utility or the escalator fee went really high. And they did not catch this in the offer. So what I tell folks is, like any other industry, like car dealerships or any other industry, there are good actors and bad actors. If you have received a PPA from a door-to-door salesman or door-to-door canvasser who is saying it's free solar, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Please send us a copy of your agreement or your proposal. Do not sign the contract. We will look at it. We will let you know if we know the vendor. We'll let you know if there are any red flags, and then you can make your decision. And we do not charge any fee for the service. But the problem is, after the ITCs or tax credits expired last year, we have seen a lot of folks being offered PPAs, and sometimes it's a good deal, sometimes it's not. Our team is small. We cannot catch all the bad actors, but please send it our way or just spread the word on our help desk and we'd be happy to assist. All right. Before I get into the last segment, Larissa, any questions, comments I can assist with?
You are all clear, but please stay hydrated. I am finding all of the guides you talk about and putting them into the chat, and it's specifically about the Maryland Solar Access Program. So it's all
Uh,
there.
I appreciate you. I should have shared those resources before the presentation. So
No
if if
worries. I
if
have
I did,
fingers.
perfect, perfect. That's perfect. And all right, let's get into the last part. And I'll just go over Switch Together and the program we are running. You may have received a direct mailer about this. You may have heard about us in one of the emails or one of your local newsletters or listservs. So I'll just give you a brief preview on what I'm talking about. This is what the logo looks like. Switch Together is a group buying program for solar PV, battery storage, and heat pumps for homeowners and small business owners, not just in Maryland, but also DC and Virginia. And like I said, we used to run solar co-ops before this, and then we transitioned to Switch Together back in 2023. And this is provided in partnership with another company called iChooser. iChooser does the marketing. We do this consumer protection and consumer education on this program. And we used to run two campaigns every year. One was in the spring, one was in the fall. We just decided to condense it into one extended program this year so as to avoid confusion and to minimize the amount of auctions and anything else we have to do. And like I said, it's open to folks in Montgomery County, Frederick County. We just recently expanded it to the city of Baltimore and city of Annapolis. And more recently, with you may have heard about this, maybe not. It's now statewide across Virginia with the governor's endorsement. And I'm working on that. I'm working on expanding it statewide in Maryland as well, but baby steps. So we'll get there one day. And the core offering is the solar PV systems. The battery backups are an adder. The discounts on the battery backups are not as competitive. I'll be transparent, only because we we only sell a handful of the battery backups in each of the program. So installers are not as incentivized to give you a competitive rate on them. And then there are the heat pumps, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Larissa, I think Electrify MC, which is one of Montgomery County's program, offers it themselves. So
Correct. Yeah. If you're looking to electrify your home in any way, whether that's heat pumps or induction cooktops or anything like that, you want to go through Electrify MC, and that is our county program. So I'll put that in the chat as well.
perfect. Um, so our heat pump program is more popular elsewhere in like places like Howard County and what have you. But have a read through Larissa's resource, and again, it's another really competitive consideration, lots of good incentives. But yeah, I will save that for some other day. And the two big benefits of group buying and Switch Together is, to state the obvious, I call it the Costco model. By going solar with us, you're saving anywhere from 15 to 25%, depending on the system size. Our prices are on a sliding scale. The larger the system, the higher the discount. And we usually secure these discounts during the installer auction, which we hosted back in April. When we do the auction, it's a reverse auction. We have enough data from previous campaigns to know how big the program's going to be. Based on that, we calculate how many people are going to sign up, and we tell installers how low they have to bid or how low they have to come below the market rate. The other big benefit is solar is my daytime job. It can be convoluted, it can be complicated, overwhelming, a lot of moving parts. That's where we help. Before, during, and after you sign the contract and install the system, if you have any questions, you can reach out to our help desk. We will facilitate those discussions between you and the installer. And the last thing I'll add is we take the auctions and consumer protection very, very, very seriously. Any installer that's a part of this program, they're pre-vetted. We look at their financials, any potential lawsuits. We ask them to put in a deposit of $50,000, which they get back after the last system has been installed and interconnected by the local utility. And I will share that even as a vendor neutral nonprofit, I'm going to be as objective. We have been working with Edge Energy, Lumina, SEW, Uprise with SEW and Edge, we have been working for more than a decade. Some of the newer installers, we have been working with them for 3 to 4 years. And again, our background checks are very, very robust. We also do customer surveys at the end. If they don't If the customer survey ratings do not meet the minimum benchmark, they're not invited back. We have plenty of installers on the block who are scrambling to join, so we are not short on options, and we keep the installers very honest in this process. All right, I'm not going to go into all these numbers, but just this is a snapshot of how many people we have signed up in this program. More than or close to 18,000 people have signed up across DC, Maryland, Virginia. I keep putting them in one bucket because this is a capital area switch together program, and Montgomery County is just one part of this behemoth of a model. And so close to 18,000 people have signed up. Of those folks, around 2,000 people eventually signed a contract and are interconnected. We will be hitting that 2,000 number sometime this fall. The close rate is close to 11 or 12%. Why so low? It's only because, just like our co-ops, solar's pricey. Solar can be complicated. Most of the folks that sign up are just on a fact-finding mission. They just want to learn more, hear more about how this stuff works. And most folks who opt out tell us, we are waiting for the prices to get cheaper next year, which is fair. But I just tell them the best time to go solar was 5 years ago, and the second time best is now. And the opportunity cost of not doing this is being at the mercy of utility providers. But those are the numbers in a nutshell. And this is the last slide, so I appreciate you all bearing with me. But in terms of the sign up process, there will be a link which I'll share. You can sign up and register, fill out the form. We get very specific on the questions. You do not have to be an expert. So we'll ask you questions like, what's the height of your roof? What, what's your utility usage across the year? What's the age of your roof? Among other questions. If you do not have a good answer or you're not sure, that's fine. Just make an educated guess. Once you complete the form, you will receive a rough offer. If you want to proceed and do a one-on-one consultation with the installer, you will be prompted to pay a $150 deposit. That deposit is 100% refundable. We ask for it because it is not possible to assign all those 2,000, or to be more specific, we have close to 5,000 people signed up in the current program. We're looking for leads who are more responsive and serious about going solar. And once you pay that deposit, you're automatically assigned an installer sales rep. It helps us filter out more serious customers versus more of the passive or unresponsive ones. Once you're assigned an installer, they will walk you through the personal recommendation, customize your proposal based on your responses. You can make any changes to your answers, and then you get a final proposal. That's where you make a decision, which is step 3. If you're happy with the offer, you can sign the contract. If you're not happy, if you want to wait till next year, or you're just not interested anymore, reach out to our help desk, tell us you want to opt out. We will issue the refund, no questions asked. And then once you sign the contract, they will work through the permitting and all the other paperwork, including the MSAP grant and any of the other stuff. They'll get you installed. The installation itself takes anywhere from 1 to 2 business days. It's the permitting that takes the longest amount of time. You'll be PTO'd and interconnected, and that's it. You're all set. And then after that, what do you want to do now? You can sign up with us at switchtogether.com. And then I will save the heat pumps for non-Montgomery County residents as it will be more relevant to them. But yeah, those are the 2 big programs we're running. And thank you so much. That's our help desk. If you have any questions, send them my way. And with that, I'm going to
Thank
stop.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Secret. There
No
was
problem.
one question. I think I answered it, but just making sure. Wasn't the $7,500 offered by the federal government as part of the Maryland Solar Access Program? Do you know where that money comes from?
That is a good question. That is from the federal bucket. So it's not a Montgomery County incentive. It is it's something from the MEA
Mhm.
statewide in Maryland. And I know it's on a first come first served basis. That funding is very competitive. It gets exhausted really fast. And like I said, it's capped at $75 per household. I remember last year the funding was capped at $6 million or what have you statewide. So it's going to be open tomorrow. That portal will go live tomorrow. If you would like to learn more about the eligibility, they literally have an income table on their website for one person, a two-family household, and so on up till 10 folks in a family. And it might just be me, but I looked at those income streams or that criteria. It's very, very, very generous.
Yeah.
So have a read and see if you qualify. And if you need a connection to someone on the MEA team, we have folks over there. We can make a connection, and they're the subject matter experts. They can get into the specifics and let you know if you're a good fit.
I think the question was more, and when I looked into it, it's also it's money that comes from the C funding. So
Uh,
it's not from the oh my gosh. The one what was it before?
I know what you're saying. So it's the One Big Beautiful Act or
Yeah,
OBA last year.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think they might be conflating it with the
yeah.
ITCs or tax credits at the federal level.
That's what it is.
The
These are
reason,
not, yeah.
right.
So this is separate. So the money is separate, and they're saying actually they have $10 million now, Sucrit,
Ah,
that they're going to be
my
putting
apologies.
towards this. That's right. So last year was 6 million, this year it's 10 million. So this money is available. It will be available, like the application literally goes live tomorrow, July 29th. I don't want to say at 12:01 a.m. because who knows with state websites, but it will be live soon. And all the information about that is there. It is income qualifying, so you may not qualify for the money based on how much money you make. You know how these programs go. But they like Switch Together is a viable option. I definitely recommend it. It makes it a lot easier. You don't have to get three quotes from three different installers as you normally do. I know I just got quotes for something recently. I got six quotes and I was just like, oh
Oh,
boy, it's a lot of work. Just it's like a job just to get quotes for projects that you want done. So I know Switch Together made it super easy for us to get solar panels. And if we ever want to add more, we are going to go through this process again. So
and if it helps just to delineate the $7,500 and the ITCs, the reason we don't bring it up anymore is because that expired on December 31st last year. That was a 30% tax credit at the federal level under the previously now defunct IRA or Inflation Reduction Act, no longer in operation. So that's completely different. Whatever is offered by the MEA is for Maryland taxpayers and Maryland residents. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a different stream.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sucrid. So much information. I put a lot of things in chat. You will all receive an email once this recording is downloaded to the computer for me to share it with you. You'll receive a follow-up email, and all of the links will be in that email. Sucrid's email address will be there. The Solar Help Desk will be there. My information will be there. And if you have any additional questions, please let us know. But thank you so much for staying about 12 minutes longer than we originally scheduled for. And we really appreciate you. And if you have any questions, please reach out. In the meantime, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And
Thank
hopefully the
you.
sun
Have a
does
good
come
one.
out after this rain.
It is looking nicer. So the storm is past. All right. Bye
See you
all.
later.
Here comes the sun. Here comes